Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 spoilers. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Nick is informed by Sharon that Noah was involved in a terrible accident. In the Young and the Restless Monday, October 13th episode, Nick rushes to Los Angeles. Cal presses Victoria for Claire's location, and Phyllis demands Kane's AI software in return for her assistance. The Young and the Restless events. Regarding the Young and the Restless, Kane and Phyllis, Adam and Chelsea told Nick that there was a report within Newman Media that Arabesque had halted agreements due to their exposé. Nick reasoned that he could join Sharon in Los Angeles as he was no longer needed there. Whether Victor liked it or not, he was eager to get there, and he reported that Noah had not been returning Sharon's calls. Adam promised Nick that they would take his place. Something had seemed off with Noah, Nick said. Chelsea remembered the moments during Connor's OCD therapy when she and Adam had been tense. Connor had overcome it, and Noah would too, Adam said. Nick decided that seeing and speaking with Noah directly would help him feel better, so he went to notify Victor about the trip. Adam didn't think his dad would approve. Victoria, Nikki, and Victoria were amazed at how quickly the news release went viral at the new Newman Ranch. Victor was hesitant to call it a victory just yet, since he anticipated that Kane would attempt to repair his reputation. Following Victoria's departure, Nikki asked if Jack had influenced the choice to publish the story. Victor explained that Jack's sole goal was to persuade Jill to assist in stopping Kane from doing foolishly. When Nick showed up, he declared that he had purchased a ticket to Los Angeles. Go visit Noah with Sharon. Since it appeared that something was wrong with Noah and Sharon hadn't been able to get in touch with their kid, Nick clarified that he wasn't requesting permission. Victor wanted Nick to stay at home and encouraged Nick to let Noah handle his difficulties on his own. The fact that Victor was digging in his heels was shocking to Nick and Nikki. Victor had a suspicion that Nick was exaggerating the situation involving Noah. Nick countered that by treating Kane as the bogeyman, Victor was acting in the same way. Nick complained that, even if Kane might not do anything, he was tired of allowing him to control every aspect of their lives. Victor wanted to fight Kane as a family and expected that Kane would feel empowered as long as he had the AI software. Nick argued that he could always hop on a video call or take a plane back since his son needed him. Nikki concurred that she worried more about Noah than Kane. Victor granted Nick his blessing after acknowledging that Noah was more significant. Sharon called and sobbed that he had to come because it was like Cassie all over again. Nick took her call. Because Noah had been in a serious vehicle accident, Sharon sobbed as she explained that she was in the hospital. Sharon pleaded with Nick to arrive quickly because she and Noah were in need of him. Victor handed Nick the Newman jet after Nick vowed to arrive as quickly as possible. Victor comforted Nikki as Nick hurried out. Adam and Chelsea relaxed on a couch at Society, enjoying the fact that there were no deadlines or emergencies. They considered how they had grown closer than ever in the 2 years since Connor's diagnosis. Chelsea wondered if Nick and Sharon were also growing closer as they shared a kiss. Adam complained that whenever Sharon and Nick were together, she always seemed to get harmed. Victoria came up and said she was there to get takeaway for herself and the children. Katie reminded her via text message that the teenagers would be dining with Billy that evening. Victoria acknowledged that she could use the company when Chelsea and Adam encouraged her to join them. Victoria admitted that she could hear others chatting, but that she was not paying attention and that she needed to stop. Victoria was going through a difficult period, and Chelsea understood it. Victoria admitted that she occasionally felt lonely and was happy to have met them. Adam joked that Victoria never imagined she would say that to him. According to Victoria, Claire had traveled to Los Angeles. Chelsea referred to Holden as a bit of an operator. Victoria said that it was complicated when Chelsea asked if Kyle and Claire had broken up. Victoria acknowledged that it wasn't the ideal idea for her daughter to go on vacation with a near stranger, but she also said that Claire needed time to reflect. I completely agree, Kyle added. They moved aside when Kyle requested a quiet conversation with Victoria. Adam surmised that Kyle was desperate and would stop at nothing to return to the game. When Chelsea's phone rang, she disclosed that the Kane exposé was making waves on global media. Adam scowled that everyone believed Kane and Colin were shady characters who had amassed their fortune by manipulating elderly women. Chelsea thought Kane would never be able to get well. It would take a miracle, Adam thought. Kyle, meanwhile, told Victoria that he had made the decision to travel to Los Angeles because he was unable to watch his relationship with Claire deteriorate. Victoria told him that Claire had asked for time and space, and she planned to honor her pledge to Claire to keep out of it. Kyle maintained that if Claire lived in Los Angeles, he wouldn't mind. Alone, but he failed to see how she would discover her sentiments in the presence of a player. Holden was bad stuff, Kyle argued, and he requested Victoria to let him know where Claire was living in Los Angeles. Victoria objected to sharing the details with Kyle. Victoria insisted that Claire had made up her mind, while Kyle laughed at the notion that Holden was merely giving her a tour of the city. Kyle contended that Claire was not thinking well, and he begged Victoria to assist him in locating her. Kane followed Phyllis to the jazz club bar. Phyllis emphasized that they were there on her terms to talk about altering Kane's image, even though he preferred the scotch on his train. Kane expected that his portrayal as an evil, greedy bastard by Victor and Adam would not simply disappear. Victor wanted something significant and quick to change people's perceptions of him, but Kane anticipated that his lawsuit would be stuck in court for years. Since she got down and dirty with the best of them, Phyllis thought it odd that Kane had sought her assistance in repairing his reputation when he had originally wanted to collaborate with her. She questioned whether he had reached the bottom. Because she was intelligent, astute, and flexible, Kane vowed he was down but not out and had hired her. He seems to be jerking her about again, Phyllis thought. Phyllis mentioned the many times Kane had drastically altered his intentions, despite his insistence that he wasn't playing games. Phyllis also noted that she hadn't been treated well in the piece. Although Kane regretted that she was collateral damage, he saw it as an opportunity to improve his reputation. Kane claimed that he just cared about showing Lily and the twins that he wasn't a monster, and he needed Phyllis's assistance to do it quickly. Kane pointed out that although Phyllis understood what it was like to lose her children's respect and confidence, she had given him hope that he might change things. When Phyllis asked him how he intended to accomplish this, Kane acknowledged that he simply knew how to look more heroic. Kane imagined a constructive use of his AI program that would astonish rather than frighten people. Phyllis objected to Kane using the AI to damage his reputation and recommended that he instead provide a sizable donation to a worthy cause. They had planned to utilize the software to obtain something for themselves, she reminded him, and he reasoned that it might help him gain a new reputation and become more well-known. Kane became irate, claiming that everything he had built was in jeopardy and that he would sacrifice everything to get back in touch with Lily and his children. Kane insisted on knowing whether or not Phyllis would assist him. Kane reasoned that it was better than giving the AI software to Victor, while Phyllis sneered at the idea of using it for the greater good. What had happened to them using the program to obtain anything from the individuals who detested them? Phyllis wondered if they were the only options. Kane was determined to use it to improve his appearance, so he could once more meet people's eyes. Billy was correct, Phyllis yelled, and Kane was unsure of his identity and activities from one minute to the next. Kane told Phyllis to assist him, or he would find another person to do it. Phyllis, complaining that Kane had not been given the opportunity to demand something from her and flee, followed him to the athletic club foyer. He was not going to sit around begging. Phyllis complained that he had achieved success and become a billionaire, and that he shared the same desire as the others to take use of her skills before discarding her. When no one wanted to work for him, she challenged him to offer the position to someone else. Phyllis said that she was the only person standing beside Kane, but she didn't appreciate how he was handling her. Kane asked her what he could do to show her that he needed her. Kane didn't feel comfortable giving the AI program to Phyllis when she demanded it. I can't believe he didn't trust me after all that time, Phyllis said, leaning in close. Cain had been correct to turn to her, Phyllis purred, because she was not only a computer whiz, but also the only person in town who could keep him from being shunned. Before granting her complete access to the software, Cain told her to come up with a few speculative ideas. He took a step closer when she inquired if it was the best he could do. Yes, for the time being, he answered. For a moment, Cain and Phyllis hovered just inches apart. She grinned, promised to stay in contact, and turned to face him before leaving. Cain said he had only wanted to hear Lily's voice in his voicemail. In Genoa City, Nick Newman is the voice of reason. Welcome to the young and the restless daily YPP for a brief. You're almost halfway through. Recap of the most incredible, or what the hell did we just watch? Moments from today's episode. Now, let's get started. The young and the restless events. After Victor admitted that he was mistaken about the young and the restless, Nikki gave him this look. Nick Newman's inclination was to flee to the West Coast as soon as possible, even before he found out about his son Noah's car accident in Los Angeles from his ex-wife, Noah's mother, Sharon, since his father, Victor, wanted everyone on call to handle any threats from Cain. Nick anticipated that it would be difficult to convince people to leave town. Nick was advised by the billionaire to let Noah handle his own difficulties. Nick questioned, "Would you do that?" Victor claimed to have done that numerous times. Nick told his father that he would go and assist his children if they needed him. He had indeed done so numerous times. "Oh, yeah, you're right," Victor said gravely, almost jestingly. Cain was the reason Victor brought up the matter. Nick then expressed what many of us have been considering while drawing a line in the sand. "You treat Cain like he's this damn bogeyman," Nick replied. Victor reassured Nick that Cain would ultimately act, saying, "He dominates every minute of our lives, and I'm sick of it. We sit around plotting and waiting for him to do something." Nick then brought up the possibility that his father should have refrained from having Adam publish the popular article on Victor. Nicholas Newman has once again become Genoa City's sane voice. Luckily, he's en route to Noah and Sharon. When it came to reaching them, Nick's intuition was perfect. Do you want further information? We've got you. The greatest comprehensive YNR recaps may be found online at Soap Central. You may even read every single one of them going back more than 30 years. We also provide daily spoilers if you are unable to wait for the next episode. The 2 Scoops is as close as we can get to being a watching party without really being a show. So whatever you do this weekend, please remember to read it for some chuckles. Hey, admit it, we're funny. The best thing is that we want to know if you agree or disagree. Leave a comment below as usual. Nick Newman once again demonstrated his role as the young and the restless moral core and emotional compass. His appearance in today's episode broke through the tension and deceit that surrounded the Newman family, as well as the larger mayhem that Cain Ashby's cunning had wrought on Genoa City. It started with a well-known family spat, reflecting decades of father-son power battles. But it concluded with a reminder that Nick's greatest strength has never been money, business savvy, or unrelenting desire. Rather, it is his steadfast moral belief and heart. This was aptly depicted in the episode when Nick was caught between his parental inclinations and his father's orders. Nick felt uneasy before he ever learned from Sharon about his son, Noah's car accident. One of his defining characteristics has always been his capacity to detect when people he cares about are in danger, even before the entire extent of the situation is known. Love was what he was worried about, not the Newman name, the family business, or appearances. Nick's response to Victor telling him to stay put and concentrate on Cain was both heroic and realistic. He reminded Victor and the audience of what really important, refusing to play into his father's never-ending fixation with power and retaliation. "Would you do that?" he asked, weighed the burden of years of strife as he questioned his father's detachment theory. Nick blasted through Victor's attempts to defend his strategy by pointing out that Victor has never looked the other way when his kids were in need. The authors condensed decades of Newman family history into a single, intensely emotional exchange. It was the ideal representation of Nick's position as the link between empathy and conflict, always remaining steadfast when his father's empire-building goes beyond moral bounds. Victor's response, that grave, almost hilarious admission that Nick was correct, was humorous, but it also said a lot. Victor Newman rarely gives up, especially to one of his children, but in that instant he realized something crucial. Nick may not always agree with his strategies, but he has inherited his best traits, which include courage, loyalty, and commitment. Nevertheless, Victor being Victor, the topic soon returned to Kane, the present bogeyman that haunts every Newman strategy meeting. For fans weary of the never-ending power struggles, Nick's handling of this paranoia seemed refreshing. Nick, clearly frustrated, yelled, "You treat Kane like this damn bogeyman. He controls every moment of our lives, and I'm tired of it." This was a generational reckoning, not just a son retaliating against his father. The most powerful family in Genoa City has been living off of a cycle of vengeance for far too long, responding to adversaries rather than enjoying their own lives. Fans were reminded of Nick's moral clarity by his decision to leave that toxic cycle, which is something that is sometimes lacking in a soap opera that is based on deceit, secrets, and ambition. Nick's comment regarding Adam's popular article about Victor was yet another moment of stark reality. It brought to light the fact that the Newman family's worst wounds frequently originate from inside. Nick saw the true danger, which arises when family members use one another's vulnerabilities as weapons, rather than concentrating on outside threats like Kane. For viewers who have often witnessed the self-destruct, he served as both a moral compass and a voice of reason because of his capacity to serve as a mirror to his father's actions. The young and the restless excels at this type of narrative, not only through the battles on the outside, but also through these personal encounters between generational trauma and development. Nick isn't just rebelling for the sake of rebelling. He's defending humanity, perspective, and balance, all of which are sometimes overlooked in Victor's unrelenting pursuit of power. Naturally, Victor's love for his family is ironic, but the way he expresses it through manipulation, control, and surveillance is oppressive. Nick, on the other hand, represents the opposite of the Newman coin: leadership without dominance, love without restrictions, and strength without cruelty. The ideal emotional reward was the choice to have Nick eventually move to Los Angeles to be with Sharon and Noah. Nick's defining characteristic is loyalty, despite his conflicts with his father and ex. He followed his instincts without question, sensing that something was off with Noah. Fans who have seen Nick make mistakes but always return to his basic principles, family first, found great resonance in this moment. This sequence was made dramatic by the show using character-driven suspense, history, and emotional truth rather than explosions, betrayals, or unexpected turns. Nick's humanity keeps him unique in a town where almost everyone is driven by ego or avarice. His moral compass makes him resilient rather than naive. A long-brewing generational transition was highlighted by the contrast between his decisions and Victor's icy practicality. The dynamics of the Newman family are evolving along with Genoa City. Although Nick has long been known as the voice of reason, this episode reinforced why that moniker is so appropriate. Nick has been the grounded Newman since his first days on the show. He is the one who has strong emotions, loves freely, forgives more than he ought to, and frequently finds himself bearing the emotional weight that others are unable to bear. Longtime watchers were reminded of their complicated past, which included moral disputes and commercial conflicts, by his scenes with Victor. However, there is still respect for one another in spite of everything. The tension between two men who have a deep love for their family but display it in very different ways is what has made their father-son relationship so captivating over the years. This relationship was deftly reflected by the authors in the plot of Noah, where Nick rushes to his son's side while Victor demands authority from a distance. The cycle keeps repeating, but Nick is stopping it, which is a significant difference. The stage is set for emotional upheaval and perhaps reconciliation as Nick gets ready to see Sharon and Noah again. Nick's constant presence will probably be consoling to Sharon, who has been dealing with the emotional fallout from Noah's injury. And further element of poignancy is added by their shared history, which is equal parts pain and love. The spectator is aware that previous emotions reemerge whenever Nick and Sharon are reunited during difficult times. There is no denying the emotional chemistry between them, regardless of whether this results in a love rekindling or simply a newfound understanding. New storylines in Los Angeles, away from Victor's controlling grip, are also made possible by Nick's presence. Nick can be himself there, not as a businessman or a Newman heir, but as a parent and guardian. This episode is especially enjoyable because it strikes a balance between drama and reflection. Identity is at the heart of Nick and Victor's conflict, not just Cain or Noah. Who are those who don't fight all the time? Can a family based on pride and power have both love and reason? According to Nick's behavior, the answer is definitely yes, but only if someone has the guts to question the status quo. He has evolved into that individual, subtly changing the definition of strength in a control-obsessed household. His voice is the one that breaks through the cacophony, even though it isn't the loudest in the room. Nick's calm conviction is a lighthouse of empathy, truth, and balance in a world where Victor Newman's empire looms huge. The young and the restless Nick Newman is still one of the show's most adored characters, as today's episode ultimately reminded viewers. He doesn't plan, control, or exert dominance. Rather, he acts, feels, and listens from the heart, which is what makes him admirable and relatable. His trip toward Sharon and Noah is not only physical, it is also symbolic and emotional. Love, family, and healing are more important to him than Genoa City's never-ending power struggles. By doing this, Nick Newman confirms what his devoted followers already know. He is and always will be Genoa City's voice of reason.